Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Antonio Alanis, and in today's episode, I want to talk more about how to prepare for a headshot when submitting your application for a gallery exhibition. So, if you're new here, I am Antonio Alanis, and I am doing a series on the 12 steps to exhibiting your work in galleries as a beginner artist. And this video talks about essentially when and how to submit some of the headshot requirements when applying to galleries. And to give you some background story, I have been exhibiting for the past 10 years. I started in about 2016, and I'm doing this series to essentially talk about things that I wish I knew as an artist starting out. Because let's face it, it's hard. It's hard doing this, not only being an artist in 2024, but also understanding the ins and outs of submitting. I think that sometimes it's difficult for people like myself trying to break into this world, particularly not having an art degree or a formal experience of going to art school. And I think it's important for myself to give information and help other people who may be thinking about learning more about galleries. I highly encourage you to watch the previous videos and the upcoming videos that will give you more pointers in exhibiting as well. So let's start. Now, what is a headshot? So a headshot is essentially a picture that galleries will require you to submit when applying to their applications or applying to their art calls. And it's important because essentially they will use this picture to identify you as the artist submitting. Essentially, the thing about galleries requiring these headshots is that they will use them for marketing purposes anytime that they want to highlight the artist or anyone participating in the workshop or the gallery submission, not the workshop, because we're applying for galleries. They will use that to let people know that this is who is going to be there and who will be arriving. It's a great opportunity for people to get to know you. And I think it's always, other than applying for a gallery, I think it's best practice or recommended to have a picture of you that you can use in marketing or anytime that you want to talk about your work or talk about what is it that you do. So I think it's important to have a picture already so that you can use it for, let's face it, for social media, for marketing, for letting people know this is what we're doing. We'll talk about point number 2, which is the importance about having a headshot. Now, notice I will not say the word here professional. One, because I did not take my pictures. You can do this various ways. And today we're going to talk about mostly taking your own headshot. There are other ways as well. You can consider hiring other photographers to take your picture. And I think that's a wonderful way to continue this opportunity for other people. But today, it will be mostly the pictures that we will take ourselves. I'll show you some examples down the video and also in the description that you can use for your own as well. Again, why is it important to have a headshot? That is because we are giving people our first impression. When people see us, whether it's in person or digitally, they will think about who we are, and also it gives us the ability to communicate who we are and what things we want people to know about us. So as artists, we express ourselves through our work. And there are so many ways to communicate things that you want the viewer to know from the picture that you are sharing. So we'll talk about some tips in how you can do that. It's the first impression about your work, about your being as an artist. I think that it's a beautiful representation about you as an artist and what you can do. I think it shows your personality. You can think more about what things you want to include in your headshot, including the background, what you wear, the pose, the environment that you want to show people. And essentially, all these things combined will help the viewer find more about you as an artist, about your creative practice. So think about what kinds of things you like to communicate to the viewer. That would be the first one. So let's go to point number 3, preparing for a headshot. So what are some tips? What's some advice that I recommend to do to prepare for a headshot? First, as I was saying before, take some minutes to an hour, 30 minutes to an hour or so, and brainstorm the questions that I've already posed in the past few minutes. What kinds of messages do you want people to know about you when they look at your work or when they look at you in your headshot? And do a brain dump, do a list of everything and anything that comes to you, whether it's right or wrong. And once you have that information, think about what exactly, maybe 3 or 5 things that you like to include in your headshot. So this goes into portrait photography in terms of what you want people to know about you. And this goes hundreds of years. People have been using paintings. If you look at museums, if you look at paintings from the 19th century and even before that, you can see the personality of the viewer. Sometimes you may see people holding books. Sometimes you may see people with pets. Sometimes you may see people with other people. Or looking back in pictures that talk about royalty, they have used many symbols to talk about who they are. So I think it's important for you to think about what kind of message you like to communicate. What is it that you want to show? You can start with your clothing. That'll be the first thing. Wear something that you like people to know about you. Is it a particular style of shirt? Is it a particular texture? Is it a particular connection to something that you have enjoyed doing? Are you a muralist and want to have paint all over your shirt? Are you a painter and want to have paint all over your shirt? Or are you someone who wants to have maybe a shirt that is typical of your country? As someone from Mexico myself, I've used some portraits. I have 2 or 3 portraits, or rather headshots that I've used for submissions, and some that I have not used yet. I have used those pictures to talk about my culture and talk about the importance about where I come from. So I've used a lot of symbols, a lot of references to Mexico's indigenous past, and I think that has been an important way of communicating my identity to the viewer. Think about what things you like to show the person who is looking at you. And let's talk about the background in this subset or this subpoint of the headshot. The background is just as important as you and what you're wearing. I think the background can give a lot of advice, or not advice, rather awareness about who you are and what you do. Maybe pick a place that is important to you. Maybe pick a place that has something that symbolizes something or something that stands out for something else. And create a place where you're able to be there comfortably and show other people that this stands out for you. I'll be sharing a headshot of what I've used in the past, but a picture that I do want to talk about is when I took a headshot back in 2020 in a garden behind a very large fig tree, and the importance about figs and just the idea about being in front of nature or being in nature behind lush, beautiful leaves and trees and shrubs meant a lot to me, because if you seen my work, I really tie a lot of plants and also nature to how we as people can be strong and push forward all the adversity that life can throw at us. I've done a series on paintings that relate to nature and art and as ourselves as people, and I really encourage you to think deeply about what is it that you want people to know more about you. Just to give you an example, you can go to my website at antonioalanisart.com, and there's a section called Artist Statement and Bio where you can see an example of a headshot. It's just one of the many examples that you can have as well. So that'll be one thing that I highly recommend. Choose something that reflects your style. Choose something that reflects your personality. You don't have to have a studio, and if you want to, perfect. If you have that experience, why not? Or also look into possibly collaborating with other artists who can help have those pictures taken. So that'll be my biggest advice for point number 3 on preparing for your headshot. Now, point number 4, I realize this is really talking about headshot is photography, right? So we were saying before, once you're an artist, sometimes you may be a photographer as well. And it's something that I really liked. And I know the basics of photography. I have enjoyed learning more about lighting and composition. So the best thing I can give you in lighting is try to take a picture sometime where the sun, ideally natural light, can help or is available to you. So the pictures that I've taken in the past have been either inside or outside. The picture in the garden was outside, and I made sure to pick a place where the sun lit my whole face and showed the colors of everything as clear and as close to reality as possible. I did that to allow me to like that. Light can come in different warmths. It can be cold, it can be warm, and so forth. But just to, I know it can be super complicated to talk about photography as well, which is another medium within itself. Highly respect it, and I really love it. The thing about it is that you don't have to make it complicated. You can be outside if possible. What I recommend doing is being in a place where there are a lot of clouds, meaning that not necessarily that it's cloudy or dark. It can be cloudy, it can be overcast. And the thing about that is it will diffuse or it will spread the light everywhere, and it will be uniform, meaning that the light will be soft. It will not be harsh, as opposed to if you were taking a picture in front of the sun or right under the sun. You will see maybe shadows down your nose, or maybe your ears, or any other feature in your face. Again, if you're going towards that style, that's perfectly fine. But if you're looking to do something like what I've done in the past, you can definitely follow what I'm saying or experiment. I think that's the beauty about this kind of work. Experiment what works for you and look at what it works. In terms of composition, I think composition could be another video, another topic, another lesson, honestly. The biggest thing is you can think about composition essentially is how you arrange whatever you're looking at. You can either do a front, face-to-face picture. You can do a 3/4, or you can just play around with your posture, with your perspective. Choose something that feels natural to you or that shows something that you want to highlight, as I was saying before, in your personality. That would be the first one. Composition, I have enjoyed doing pictures that are close-ups, so pictures that are super close to the face, and also pictures that are farther. So also consider playing with lenses if you have availability. Even if you are doing this through your phone, consider doing zoom ins or zoom outs as you do this. And of course, make sure that you have a high quality picture as much as possible, because the larger the piece, the more you're able to edit and not lose information. Lighting composition. Point number 5. What are some headshot tips that I would recommend? So some advice is, again, you don't have to use a studio for pictures. You can do your pictures yourself. What I recommend is getting a tripod and even using your phone. You can definitely play with it. I think the beauty about the phone is that it's available. Most people have one, and you don't have to worry about the latest model or anything like that. Just experiment with what you have. And also, there are some editing options as well if you're looking to include color or change how it looks as well, even adding filters. I think that's one of the biggest things. Now, once you have a tripod and a camera, think about some functions that your phone or camera may have, such as a self-timer. Give yourself 10 seconds to capture something and play with the poses. play with your facial expression, play with how you are sitting. Sometimes it may work if you have some props as well. I've definitely have taken pictures with a calavera ofrenda piece that I've done for an installation, and I've taken pictures with it in various ways and formats, and I've found it very fun. So again, usually these photo shoots will last about 30 minutes to maybe 45 minutes. And it's really a way for me to just be silly, play with my facial expressions, with how I am behaving in front of the camera. And again, you'll be able to pick the picture that best suits your goal. And once you're ready to pick which one is the best. So I think that is one. Now, if you're looking for photography or for someone to work with you, you can definitely reach out to people. There are tons of photographers that have in my area, and I've never hired any one of them just yet. But I think it's important to know that maybe people out there can take your picture. Photographers usually have about 10 to 15, if not 20 pictures that they give out to people, and the prices can be diverse. I think I've seen packages from $100, $150 to I think $800, $1,000. So these are a few minutes to maybe an hour or so. So again, if you're a beginner artist, think if this is something that you like to invest in, or maybe you want to learn more about, definitely reach out to some photographers and see if that fits your budget. Some common mistakes to avoid when taking your picture. If you are taking your picture, I highly recommend to not have poor lighting in your picture. You can do whatever you want, but the thing is that having a good lighting will show your face, right? So you want to be well lit. You don't want to be overexposed, meaning that you can't see a detail in your face because you have so much light in your face. You want to have a balance between showing yourself and also showing yourself and not losing quality or also features in your photography. Now, distracting background. If you are looking for a distracting background, maybe that is your style, maybe that is your way of communicating to the world, that's fine. But think about intentionality. Really think about what is it that your background is adding or taking away from your headshot, right? Is it adding more messaging to what you're trying to communicate, or is it maybe distracting people? It's something unrelated to what you do. For example, for me, I explain my plant background, so that fits mostly with what I do. Now, if I were, let's say, in a warehouse or somewhere with a grungy background, I don't think that would make much sense because that's not the type of vibe that I'm looking to give, right? Nothing wrong if you want to do a grungy vibe or be in a warehouse. I think that's a beautiful opportunity for anyone to explore what kinds of messages you like to communicate. But again, it doesn't really make sense for me. So really think about what is it that you like to communicate. And I'm just being repetitive because it really comes back to what message you want people to understand or what influence do you want to have. Some tips to avoid not understanding or having an idea about a background. You can look, if you have had the chance to screenshot or save pictures in wherever you save pictures, maybe look in your feed or history and start singling things that you have enjoyed watching. And maybe that can give you an idea about the things that you like to reproduce. Maybe not copying that, but using that reference as an inspiration for doing something else. For example, for me, if I were inspired by an artist taking pictures in a way that I love the background using bricks and the brick texture, something that to me is more on brand, I'm not going to go exactly look out for that particular brick texture. I will look for maybe another brick texture that still may have patterns that may communicate what I want people to know. It can be about communicating my identity as a person of Mexican American identity. Think about those kinds of things. Lastly, I think another mistake is not showing your personality is I don't think that a headshot it should be limited. I don't think it's a headshot that people will normally have on. What I'm trying to say is you don't have to be overly formal. You don't have to be in a suit and tie unless this is what you want people to know about you or have an idea about. The thing about that is just have your clothing resemble you as an artist. What is it that you want people to know? Again, textiles. Play with things that you want people to know. Now, to finish this part is be aware that sometimes if you're looking to be aware about logos and other people's things like that as well. Sometimes you may need permission to use those things as well. So also be aware about that. So point number 8 is presenting your headshot. Some of the things that I recommend have different sizes. Have sizes that are super light in the few KBs, or also maybe full size megabytes or even raw format if you have options to access the raw format. So that maybe sometimes you have the opportunity to find the types of images that you have and maybe you don't have to retake them again. The final thing about presenting a headshot is essentially put it on wherever you normally go online. If you're always going to your Instagram, maybe do a presentation post talking about who you are as an artist and just give people an idea about, hey, new headshot, this is who I am. And maybe you have something else like a website. Maybe you can also put or place your headshot in the artist statement and bio, and maybe people can understand that this is who you are, and maybe this is your first impression that they have about you. People may or have said on this upcoming point, which is obtaining your headshot. Now, the headshot that I'm talking about, I took in 2020. Now it's time for me to take a new one. One, because it's 4 years ago, and we're 2024. And I've read that some photographers recommend about 1 to maybe 2 headshots per year. Now, personally, I don't agree with that. I even read a photographer saying updating headshots 3 times per year. I think that it's what works for you. I don't want to take a picture of myself. I could, and I actually do, but just the idea about taking pictures, again, why take 2 other pictures if I already have a good one for that year? Maybe take a new picture if maybe your work is moving from direction. Maybe, like I was saying, if I later decide to move into the grungy warehouse looking background example that I gave you before, maybe that is the time to start doing a picture that takes us to that vibe, as opposed to the more nature-based example that I said before. So be aware, again, about how often you want to update and maybe keep it current. But definitely I've seen pictures of people who have had about 5 to 10 years. And I think it's important to keep updating it so that we don't repeat the same thing. And also I think keeps it fresh. Maybe you have access to other kind of clothing later down the line, and maybe that could be another opportunity for you to show your personality further. I'll have and will be sharing some examples to the headshots available on my website, which you can look. To summarize, there is no right or wrong answer to do a headshot. You can do it yourself, take time to experiment, look at other people's examples. But the biggest thing I can give you is to really let your personality shine. Think about this, don't make it complicated, and I really recommend that you stay for the upcoming video where I'll be touching more on how to write an artist statement. So in this artist statement, you can learn more about talking about your work and also hopefully complementing that portion with your headshot. And also, if you have not watched the other videos, you can definitely go back and watch them all. It's a series of videos, and a series is called 12 Steps to Exhibiting Your Work in Galleries as a Beginner Artist. And I highly recommend you all to follow and go to my website at AntonioAlanisArt.com to see more resources around exhibiting as a beginner artist. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good rest of your day. See you next time.